Hi, you're welcome tonight. And we'll be having some connectivity issues, and that is why we're coming late to you tonight. Anyway, let's get into some businesses of tonight. I'm still on the talk on the dark side, becoming aware of your dark side. And now I want to go further on this. We are in such a time that we need to become aware of this dark side because no one is free from it, but it can also be controlled and be managed, and you can be delivered from whatever it's a dark side in your life. But most importantly, that you need to become aware of the dark side, because sometimes they are silent killer of character. They are silent killer or destroyer of organization leadership. And so today we're coming to again to look at how do we become aware of the dark side. Now we're going to look at some aspect today. Last week we mentioned, we spoke about the traits of this dark side, which is narcissism and bullying. Now we look at further that there's also the aspect of passive aggressiveness, a sense of entitlement, codependency, syndrome in a person or a personality, and this becomes destructive of a process or some things that you are building up, or in an organization that you're working with a whole lot of teams. And so becoming aware of these actions and attitudes or character reaction helps you to maintain a good relationship and at the same time a leadership. Now today we're going to look at the impact of the dark side that you may not be aware of, and I'm bringing it into a certain leadership scenario whereby you look at what you want to achieve within your organization, but your action, your character might be the hindrance of the very thing you want to achieve. Now, there is what is referred to as a pseudo-transformational leadership. Why pseudo-transformational leadership? Often, dark side is revealed by the failing process of a transformation or in a transformation because of the personality that is driving it. I don't know what you are leading right now. I don't know the change that you want to do in your organization or the effect that you want to. But your dark side remains a major influence, a determinant of the success of the transformation. So I'm bringing the unawareness of your dark side, how it will affect your leadership transformation, and particularly when you seek transformation. Now, in transformational leadership, there is the idealized influence. The idealized influence is where we try to lead with the moral compass. We try to be ethical. We try to be a social architect of the very system that we're trying to effect change. But if you are not aware of the dark side, it often disrupts the process. And we have seen this with many leaders all over the world. When the leader concentrates on his personal interests and fails to play the role of ethical leadership, we find that it becomes impossible to see the transformation that we want to see, to move people from one level to the another and to impact their life. So as a leader, as a personality in that process, you need to be aware of any dark side that may stand in the way of transformation. Now, there are leadership scholars that I'm going to be referring to tonight. Now, transformational leadership relies on idealized influence. Antonakis 2012 noted that it's the emotional component of leadership, the idealized influence, is the emotional component of leadership. If a dark side exists, you will find it difficult to model a moral and ethical standard within the organization. And so it is required of us to be aware of ourselves, to have a self-awareness. And when you have a self-awareness, you are aware of your perhaps shortcoming, weakness, or any trait of narcissism, any trait of arrogance, trait of pride, passive aggression. It helps you to be aware of this so that you do not, you do not hinder the process of the transformation. Now, if a passive aggression is an example of this. If you are leading a process and you often fall back to the thoughts of your past, the thoughts of the bitterness that you may have experienced, it often can come out. But as you are in control of this, you become the social architect of your very system, and so it can really survive. So we are saying tonight that if we are not aware of our dark side, we often disrupt a transformational environment. Now, a leadership scholar, Bernard Bass, he coined the idea of the pseudo-transformational leadership. The reason being, when the parameter of the influence of the transformational process, when the parameter of the influence is negative, Bass believes that it is pseudo-transformational leadership, meaning that it's all going to be a negative experience. And for you to conquer or avert this negative experience, you need to conquer self. You need to be aware of any dark side. And I'm using this to say, most at times, that the dark side of a personality or a leader, even though you may have that strong charisma, that strong character that builds an organization, the same character can be, or the same strong character can be in the way of transformation. But Bass is viewing it from the idealized influence or the kind of charisma that you employ. So he believes that if the measure of the idealized influence is negative, then it's a pseudo leadership. It's a pseudo transformational leadership. And it makes it difficult to validate authentic transformation when there is so much of a negative influence from the driver of the transformation. Many of these we're going to discuss in our upcoming conference, the Leadership and Ministerial Conference, coming up next month during the month of August, from 24th to 26th of August, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. half a day for 3 days. We're going to be dealing so much about transformational leadership in its positive form and how viable it is to drive your organization. But tonight I'm dealing with, if you are not aware of your dark side, it becomes a pseudo transformational leadership. Your dark side, your character can be an hindrance to the very transformation that you want to achieve. And that's why I'm bringing it together and presenting it to you tonight. So Baz opened up about this and said that where there is so much of negative influence, it's not a true transformational leadership. Now, the intention here tonight is to highlight the impact of the dark side of the personality that disrupts the process of transformation in any organization. And for and effective leadership. According to Baz and Reggio 2006, they opined that this is when the leader is self-consumed. When the leader is self-consumed and power-oriented with warped moral values. And so in most cases, aggressive and abrasive power can command followers successfully, but transformation will not be effective. Transformation will not be effective because the aggressiveness of passive aggressiveness or passive aggression sometimes or most of the time is an undertone of the dark side of the personality that is driving the transformation. It may be due to several factors: upbringing, turbulent childhood experience, oppression, and all kinds of things, abuse at childhood. And when some personality grow up, they often react negatively. They become so sensitive and they find themselves at the helm of power. And you find out that this attitude often comes up domestically, even at workplace. But we're saying today, if you want to build a successful organization, big or small, and you are seeking transformation, you need to be aware of such dark side that will surely come open. For example, we have political leaders who have demonstrated a pseudo transformational leadership, a negative experience, a negative, measure of their leadership. Now, you find some of them, they've committed murder. They are known for nepotism. And you can mention leaders like, someone like Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was in control, but not effective leader because the transformation could not be effective. It was a pseudo leadership. Adolf Hitler, a power-oriented individual, he had the control in Europe, but it was also a pseudo transformational leader. He caused so much damage than any good. And we know right now that we have certain leader right now in the Eastern Europe breathing the same kind of attitude, of a narcissistic attitude, a passive aggression that is going on right now. We're going to have to view some of these things from the fact that some part of their personality is hindering peace, is not allowing a total transformation to take place. So when we talk about dark side, it's definitely a negative part of a personality. Sometimes they have been reported to say this very dark side, their strong personality does work well for them, but the same strong personality destroys what they may be building. So when we talk about transformation, we want to achieve ideal values. We want to achieve a moral compass for every follower, starting from the leader. It encompasses both the leader and the follower. But we're talking about leaders with strong personality, going unaware, going unchecked. It's explosive that is waiting to occur. Now, same apply to other organizations besides political environment, small or big organization. If personality with a blind spot are not aware or refuse to acknowledge, we find that it crumbles the organization. It crumbles the organization. And this happens when they are at a higher level when he cannot raise the level of the morality in others and to motivate them towards a change, we find out that it's more of a pseudo leadership. And that is why I'm saying most of the things responsible for this is the aspect of the dark side, the negative character going on unchecked without repentance, and this is common. You find that a lot of these dark side individuals who refuse to acknowledge the dark side, they breach the very moral conduct that they set in place. They breach the moral conduct that they even preach. So we're talking about a dark side. And this is due to what I refer to as moral insolvency. Moral insolvency. The dark side is your weak point. Everyone has a dark side. Everyone has a weak point. Multinational CEO, they have their weak point. A bishop, a pastor of a church has a weak point. I will give you a psalm tonight, Psalm 19 verse 12. Psalm 19 verse 12, written by a psalmist, confirms and said, "Who can understand his errors or omissions? Acquit me of hidden, unconscious, unintended faults." That's the word of the psalmist. So when we're talking about weak point, everyone has a weak point. But when you become aware of it and you begin to pray about it, you get delivered from it. And it will not stand in the way of the transformation that you are building. Because tonight, I'm wrapping it around the fact that if you are not aware of your dark side, it can destroy transformation process. It can destroy what you are building. And that is why I'm bringing this up. I mentioned moral insolvency. Now, leadership research has shown that when the dark side becomes a secret, it's disruptive and becoming or a waiting explosive scandal. That is what it is. And what is this moral insolvency? Is the absence of discipline, uncontrollable sensuality, and sexual orientation. And that is what you find, that when certain dark side that is negative, they are uncontrollable attitude, uncontrollable addictions, secrets, addictions. They are dark side, and they replay themselves in our lives if it's unchecked. That's why I said everyone has a weak point. Everyone has a dark side. But when a dark side becomes a secret, it's a waiting explosion. And this is not what we want. A waiting explosion when you have built to the top of the career in the corporate sector or in the spiritual sector, or sacred rather. So we are saying today, you need to be aware of this and get it checked, get it prayed for. Now, so we can see that this is necessary to be checked. It's not just on the spiritual realm that dark side destroy things. Also in the corporate sector, a CEO, a GM at the top of career, leading a massive number of employees, and your dark side from being a passive aggressor or a narcissistic person, a bullying, or someone who just have that, a condition of a codependency syndrome, you find out that it disrupts the very thing that you're building. And so that's what I'm saying tonight. Become aware of your dark side, and you will be a winner. Become aware of the dark side, and you will overcome certain issues of life. And that is why I'm bringing this up, that we may check it. So do not turn the blind eye to your dark side. Do not turn a blind eye. It's what can be dealt with. I think at the end of this this series, we're going to also look at how do we seek help when we have a dark side. There are certain processes that must be followed to overcome the dark side of life or the dark side of your personality, so that it does not destroy what you are building. We can look at several cases all over the world, because the people that are falling because of their dark side, it's an open source. It's an open source. In big corporates, in big ministries, and world famous. I remember some few that we read. I went through some materials. I read about Ted Haggard. The United States, he confessed to it. Drug addiction, sexual addiction. The same thing, Zachariah Rivers. All these people are great people, but the dark side could not be checked, and it became an explosion. Recently, we heard about Brian Houston of Hillsong. The same thing, they are dark side. And we are sharing this tonight to say, look, this cannot go on. It needs to be checked. You need help. And whichever way that we all have a dark side, we know that it's becoming a distraction, we need to seek help. And it is possible to overcome your dark side or to alleviate it entirely. So being aware of this is going to guard our character. It's going to help us to limit our vulnerability into this dark side character and attitude. So this is the aspect that we're going to share tonight, that we need to be aware of this dark side, and we can be in control. We can become effective, and we can achieve the transformation that we are going through right now in our organization. We are building, even if it's big already, but you do not want your dark side to crumble what you have built over the years. And as you grow in whatever you are doing, you also have to grow and mature in character. But the dark side must be arrested, must be alleviated, and surely you will succeed and you will have a good end. Now, as I want to conclude on this aspect, the other aspect, which is a dark side, is the aspect of pride. And that is what we will talk about by the grace of God next week, that we need to look at the area of pride. Pride is an excessive overestimation of oneself. That's the way I describe it. And it's become a dark side, which can really become explosive. Dark side, pride, it's a feeling of insecurity. And this cannot go on and on when you are trying to achieve a transformation. So we're going to look at that next week, God willing, in the name of Jesus. And I thank you for listening tonight. Now, before you go, I want to invite you to our upcoming conference, Leadership and Ministerial Conference, a seminar. It's a certificated seminar over 3 days, half a day, over 3 days. We're going to be discussing more of leadership theories and leadership concept, how we can become a true leader and effective leader. And at the same time, we're going to look at our financial life. We're going to also acquire more skills as to help those who are following us. We're going to be having a trauma counseling introduction, really. And that is going to help you as a leader to help people who are traumatized, those who are coming out of a traumatic experience. So you need the process, and this is one of the course This is one of the courses that we're going to be looking at. And I want to invite you specially to join us. So you go to www.shekanainstitute.org and register. The good news is we are doing a 50% registration fees on now. So be part of it and you'll be blessed. And I want to thank you for listening, and I want to thank you for watching. May God bless you. Until I see you next week, and more on this aspect of awareness of your dark side, and you will be a champion. May God bless you. Amen.